Hearing for the joint committees, environment, local areas and public works, and productive activity, trade and tourism of the Chamber of Deputies of Andrew Holland, CEO of FIA Fusion Industry Association, with in the area of the fact-finding survey on the role of nuclear energy in energy transition, the process of decarbonization. I'd like to greet the members of the Environment Committee. I'd like to inform you that the meeting will also be shown on the Chamber of Deputies web TV. And I'll give the floor to Andrew Holland, reminding him that the overall time available for his statement is around 10 minutes. And also like to ask him to summarize and not to read the document sent to the committees, to focus on the subject of the fact-finding mission as defined in the email sent to him. Very well. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Members of Parliament, thank you for allowing me to testify on your fact-finding investigation into the role of nuclear energy in the energy transition and the decarbonization process. I am Andrew Holland, the CEO of the Fusion Industry Association. Our 37 member companies are dedicated to building the energy system of tomorrow on a timescale that is relevant to the energy challenges you are investigating. Fusion energy is a clean energy solution that can scale. When fusion power plants are widely available, we will be able to bring clean, secure, and safe energy to all. So you're investigating today nuclear energy technologies. While it is true that fusion energy shares some characteristics with nuclear fission, it is different, and we must make sure that it is treated differently. Fusion energy is the power of the sun or stars brought to Earth. It combines easily available fuel, like hydrogen, at extreme temperatures and pressures to fuse the atoms, creating massive amounts of energy with no harmful, long-lived waste, no chance of a runaway reaction, or no safety threats to the general public. And we know that fusion works. Yes. Okay, thank you. And we know that fusion works. In December 2022, for the first time on Earth, the National Ignition Facility in California achieved the first controlled break-even fusion experiment. And now, companies are working to prove that they can do it in a commercially relevant way. So it is time for countries like Italy and throughout Europe and the world to update their laws to accelerate fusion energy. In the United States, where I'm from, a new law makes fusion entirely separate from nuclear fission, meaning that fusion power plants will be regulated in the United States as particle accelerators. The United Kingdom has likewise recognized these differences. So Italy should, of course, lift its national ban on nuclear power plants, and you should invest in the adoption of new nuclear technologies. And you should also ensure that fusion energy is not treated the same way as nuclear fission. Because now is the time to make sure the policies are in place to deploy fusion. The link between energy and national security has never been clearer, especially after Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine. Fusion energy will mean comprehensive energy security for those countries that deploy it and their allies. Adopting the regulations and incentives for fusion energy deployment now will ensure that the long history of fusion research in Italy is continued as we move into commercial fusion. The outlook, the economic benefits for commercial fusion is massive. The FIA's members are the companies that will commercialize fusion. They range in size from hundreds of employees and billions of dollars in capital to startups with a few people, seed funding, and a good idea. Several have operations in Italy. Proxima Fusion, based in Munich, Germany, and Renaissance Fusion, based in Grenoble, France, both have Italian operations and will grow here in Italy. Commonwealth Fusion Systems, an American firm based outside of Boston, also has significant interests here in Italy. And the supply chain for fusion in Italy is very important. Our affiliate members include some Italian companies who will be involved in the fusion energy economy, ranging from specialized manufacturers like ASG Superconductors, who has built some of the largest magnets in the world, or CMIC Technologies. And of course, Eni has proved that it is serious about leading fusion investments in Italy through partnerships and investments that will deliver fusion to the electricity grid. Because where fusion once was only a matter for publicly funded universities or national labs, it is rapidly becoming a key part of decisions in businesses around the world. Today, over $8 billion has been invested into private fusion energy companies. So the question then is when? When will we see fusion energy on the grid? Well, we know that technological breakthroughs are a function of both time and resources, money. Today, the addition of private funding, commercial innovation, and new public-private partnerships put fusion on an accelerated path. The FIA members agree the timeline for fusion energy in a decade can be achieved. We survey our members, and 85% say fusion electricity will be delivered in the 2030s or before, most in the first half of the 2030s. This is extremely ambitious, but achievable. We need ambition. The scale of the challenge and the scale of the payoff is great. Many countries have now determined that supporting and investing in fusion is in their national interest and have instituted programs that will match the ambition. So let me close by saying that this is exactly how scientific and technological breakthroughs work. Public leadership on science and infrastructure paired with private capital and innovation. So in the decades to come, when they write the book on how fusion was commercialized, what role will Italy have played? It can be very large. The opportunity is there for you to seize it. Thank you. Grazie mille. I look forward to your questions. I'm happy to be with you all today.
Onorevole Cappelletti.
Mr. Cappelletti.
Grazie, Presidente.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Holland, for being here. I'd like to put a very simple question. Considering what you've told us, is it logical currently for Italy, a country that doesn't have any nuclear power plants, to consider a project which many political groups are deciding on with laws to start up new power stations which are based on nuclear fission, which may be completed within 15 or 20 years? In Italy, a lot is being said about SMRs, which do not yet exist, which might exist in 5, 6, 7 years. But we're still talking about fission at a time when this new technology of fusion, where you seem to be very optimistic, seems to be at hand. So is there any point continuing to consider fission when we should really be giving our attention to fusion?
Before the question, Honorable Ghia.
Mr. Ghia. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to thank Mr. Holland for his statement. And I would like to also add my question to Mr. Cappelletti's. It's a very similar question. We know that there are energy costs in our country. We know what they are. And from the previous hearings we've held, we know that the time frame to develop nuclear projects involve a number of steps. And it won't be before 10 years that these fusion projects will come to fruition. But with regard to the development of other systems, we're speaking of a time frame of 20 or 30 years. So I'd like to ask you whether the time frames which have been suggested for fusion, a decade, just concern research or the actual possibility of establishing new plants, and what kind of costs this would involve? Would nuclear fusion truly be a response to the energy crisis which is affecting not only Italy but the whole of the planet, also considering the need to move to decarbonization? So I'd like to ask whether there are any questions from people who are connected by a video. So I would also like to add a question. ENI is carrying out a project with MIT on nuclear fusion. You have spoken about time frames. Since a lot of things depend on the exact time frames, and but could you be more specific with regard to the envisaged time frames in the United States and also in Britain, which you have said and which we've learned elsewhere? Both the United States and the UK have amended their laws, so they have envisaged a simpler path towards fusion than you have currently for fission. So could you add any further details with regard to timing estimates, since a large number of companies are involved? What kind of time frame do you envisage for possible commercialization of fusion energy?
Thank you. These are good questions and get to the heart of the questions. Should we consider fusion? Should we consider nuclear fission while we are waiting for fusion? The answer is, of course, yes. Fusion is important. Fusion will be coming. It is the ultimate energy source. It also is, it is difficult. Fusion is uncertain. We know that it will come. We know we will get there. In the meantime, it is important to be building new nuclear power plants. The alternative, relying solely on natural gas, coal, fossil fuels, puts us in danger of further climate damage, further energy security challenges. So I think, yes, there is an important pathway from where we are today through new, advanced, safe nuclear fission technologies, and then into nuclear fusion. And the time frame then that you asked about, and both of you got to, is really important. The plan is to bring fusion energy to the electrical grid in a decade. In the United States, the Biden administration has called for a bold decadal vision for fusion energy. We understand that both the Trump and Harris teams will continue this. Now, this will be done through public-private partnership between private companies and the Department of Energy. But we should understand that electricity to the grid will not be the ultimate commercial power plant. The first electricity to the grid will be expensive, will be uncertain. It won't be a full-scale commercial power plant. So we should expect commercial fusion by the end of the next decade, late 2030s, 2040. And that's a similar time frame as you mentioned, the project between ENI and MIT, Commonwealth Fusion Systems. Their time frame, they currently are building a proof of concept machine, a tokamak in Massachusetts, that will show that fusion energy works in a commercial way. They will turn it on in 2026, and they will show this in 2027. They are already planning and designing the next machine, which will be a power plant. This machine will not provide electricity. It will show that fusion works, but it will not provide electricity. Similar to what ITER is being designed to do in the south of France. Similar to what the National Ignition Facility has already done. Shows that fusion works, but will not provide electricity. The next step, those pilot plants will provide electricity, but they will be expensive. And then after that, we will have commercial power plants in the middle of the 2030s and beyond. So I think it's very important that every country uses all of its resources, fission, renewable energy, solar, wind, geothermal, hydropower, to move forward in a clean, safe, sustainable manner. It is all of the above energy. It's not just one. Bring them all forward and then let competition happen. Thank you.
Bene.
Right. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Holland. And I wish to conclude